I wanted to share a little personal update from my side, and that is last Friday was my last day at Twitter. Yep, that definitely still hits. And I wanted to share a little bit about what was the context around why I decided to leave and what was my decision-making process. I joined Twitter 3 years ago as a mid-level software engineer. Or at Facebook and Google, that would be an E4 or an L4. Now, you might think that maybe I had a terrible job at Twitter. Maybe people hated me. Maybe I hated the work that I was doing. That's definitely not the case. I was growing really quickly. I had recently been promoted to senior software engineer and tech lead for my team. I had a very supportive manager who was looking out for me. In short, I was enjoying my time at Twitter. It was great. And I had a really good work-life balance as well. I was working 40, sometimes 50 hours a week, but I didn't feel that I had to work overtime in order to ship things. And that was good for my work-life balance. Twitter also had a very generous vacation policy, and they took really good care of their employees. How great, you might ask? Let's put it this way. When I was about to leave during COVID, Twitter decided that it was so important for their employees to take time to take care of themselves that they mandated a personal vacation time for the past few months that I was there. Anyway, in short, I was doing great. I had good pay, good work-life balance, a great team, supportive manager. Everything was great. So why did I choose to leave, and why now? I think the important thing for everyone in their career is to have a fire within you, to have excitement about the things that you're doing. I had been in the ads business for the past 7 years now, so majority of my career. My first 4 years, I worked at a startup helping people create ads. My next 3, I worked on ads measurement at Twitter, measuring ads, making sure that they're performing well. I've had a lot of history in ads. I have a lot of context and experience working in the ads domain. While the occasional new launches are still pretty exciting, because who doesn't like to see money coming in, right? I felt I was losing passion for what I was doing. I couldn't find that fire within myself. I get out of bed and I think about what I have to do, and it's not terribly exciting for myself. That's when I figured I have to find a new challenge. A concept that I picked up some time ago, which is the idea of Ikigai, a reason for being. In order to be happy, you need to find 4 things in your life. 1, you need to find something that you love. 2, you need to find something that you are good at. 3, you need to find something that pays you well. And 4, you need to find something that has meaning. At the combination of these 4 things, at the intersection of all these 4 things, that's where you find happiness. So that was one of the starting points that got me thinking about what is something that I truly love. Without that, I think that I will always be just someone who's working for the sake of making money, for something that has impact, for something that I'm good at. But it's not something that I inherently love. With that in mind, that set the seed in my mind to start thinking about what's something that I will truly love. Throughout my career, I had always been obsessed with improving myself and finding growth. My skip manager at the time when I first joined Twitter told me that every single individual, there's an S-curve in your career. Your job is to identify where you're at in that S-curve. When I joined Twitter, I had no experience in distributed systems. I had never built teams. I didn't know how ads worked in the context of serving, collecting, getting results. I had no idea about any of that. In other words, I was at the really beginning of my S-curve. In the past 3 years, I had worked really hard on understanding how ads worked. At Twitter, they gave me a great opportunity to learn those things. I felt that I was being challenged. I was very excited. I was absorbing all the knowledge within Twitter. That was where I could find my S-curve. So fast forward several years later, I had picked up very valuable skills in building teams and working across different functions, in understanding how ads work at a very, very core level. In other words, I had learned a lot of things, and I'm always very, very thankful for Twitter and the team and the people around me that gave me the opportunity and supported me and gave me those valuable experiences that I will take with me throughout my entire life. But I figured it's a good time to find something else to challenge myself and see if I can build up those skills again from scratch. That's what I wanted to do. And that's what I felt would have given me that spark, that fire of enthusiasm. That was what I needed. It's important for me personally in my career to experience different cultures. Now, I think that company culture is often easily said, but difficult to comprehend. The reason I say this is because until you embed yourself in the company and go through the day-to-day of how they make decisions around promotion, firing, growth, you won't truly understand what the company culture is. And that's very important. To me personally, my end goal in the far future is I want to build a company, maybe multiple companies or a startup, I don't know. And I think it's very important for me from a personal growth perspective to experience different kinds of companies at different stages of a company's life cycle in order to understand what are the most important things and how can you build culture organically. Because I know for sure it's not what you put on a wall that is culture. It's what you do on a day-to-day basis. For me, I have worked at a startup, so I kind of understood the process of growing a small company into a much larger company. I've gone through at Twitter, where it's a mid-sized company with about 4,000 employees. Now, I felt that it was the right time for me to work at a much larger company to see how are they able to make decisions quickly? How do you make sure that everyone's aligned on the vision? And how do you make decisions effectively when you have so many different moving parts? That, I think, I can't experience it unless I embed myself and put myself in the shoes of actually going through the day-to-day and working at a much larger company. Why do I decide to leave Twitter? Why do I decide to leave my job in the midst of COVID when everyone is struggling to find their solid footing? Why have I decided to uproot everything, move to a new company, a new team? Being a software engineer, it's very, very convenient to interview and look around very passively. Now, because of COVID, you're able to interview and meet with different companies in very short periods of time. You can do everything virtually on the computer. You meet them, it's like doing a hangout, and you chat for 45 minutes, sometime an hour. And I felt that was a very low risk way of chatting with different companies to see what they're doing, what exciting projects they have. I don't have to take a full day off from my work. So that was the best of both worlds, where I could still focus on my work on a day-to-day basis. I wasn't slacking, I was still producing work. And on the other hand, it was a very low risk way for me to evaluate and see what's exciting out there. Maybe there's not even anything exciting out there. Maybe what I had in hand was already the best thing that I could have. After taking the past few weeks and months to think, condense, and crystallize my thoughts, I have decided that it was time for a new chapter in my life. As to what's next, I will be joining Facebook as a senior software engineer. Why Facebook? I think that's a conversation for a different day. But for now, I'm very excited about what lies ahead. And Twitter will always remain a very special place in my heart. A quote that I really like and resonated with me throughout this whole process of decision making is, "The reward of suffering is experience." Now, that quote is so good, I want to repeat that again. The reward of suffering is experience. Let that sink in. When we find ourselves struggling and in pain, that is a signal that we are breaking out of our former shells and extending our wings. All our scars become badges of honor that we carry with us everywhere we go, on our sleeves, that we can show others that we have grown through those pains and become who we are today. And I think that's very appropriate to end this video here, because I think this is an experience. This is a process that I will go through, and I believe a lot of you, whatever careers that you might have, you will go through the same process as well. You will have to decide at some point, how do you move forward? And what were the decisions that you have to make in order to achieve what you want in the future? And I hope that this video will be useful for you as you're going through that process and making that decision for yourself.